Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm John Klaus, the program chair, and this month's program is about criminal justice, specifically about community corrections. In other words, how people who commit crimes can be corrected by keeping them close to the community in which they live. And that's all I have to say. Our presenter will be Amanda Milligan, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the 2nd Judicial District Department of Community Corrections. So Amanda's presentation will be community-based corrections, finding people a path to return to their community. Amanda?
Thank you. Thank you all for inviting me to speak with you tonight. I appreciate that. As was said, I am the director of the 2nd District Department of Correctional Services. I've held that position since 2013. These are the objectives for my presentation tonight. Hopefully by the time we leave this evening, you'll know a thing or two about these items. And so we'll just go ahead and get started. We can keep this very informal, so if you have questions as we go along, please don't hesitate to ask me. One thing you might be wondering, which is very common when I speak to groups, is what is community-based corrections? Oftentimes when people think of corrections, they think of prisons, which we hear a lot about in the news, and jails. Those are the things that people commonly think about when they think about corrections. And we're neither of those things. We're community-based corrections. So here in the state of Iowa, there are 8 districts similar to the one that I am the district director of, and those are highlighted in the colors that you see on the screen. The 2nd district is the one in the bright green in the middle. Story County is our most populated county that we serve. We run on the bottom tier there, from Carroll County to Marshall County and all the way up to the Minnesota border. So it's quite a large geographical area that we do cover. It's actually the largest geographical area in the state. The other 7 districts you can see highlighted there. The 5th district is to our southern border. They're the most populated county, as you can imagine, with Des Moines being included in that county. And then you can see the other districts there, which cover all 99 counties in Iowa. Also there you can see the 9 institutions, or the prisons. Those are the black circles that you see on the map. And the ones that look like houses are the community residential facilities that are here in the state of Iowa. If you'd like to know about some of the numbers, if you're a numbers person, on any given day here in the state of Iowa, there are about 29,000 people served by community-based corrections. So a lot of our neighbors are receiving services from a community-based corrections district here in the state of Iowa. At the Iowa Department of Corrections institutions, there are right now around 8,200 individuals. I looked this up last Friday, so it's possible the population has changed since then, but right around 8,200 prisons, yes. And in community-based residential facilities, there are 1,185 beds. So you may be wondering, what is the cost of this? How much does it cost for someone to receive services? If a person is receiving a prison bed, the cost, it may vary depending on where someone is incarcerated at, but the cost of a prison bed in the state of Iowa is about $107 a day. Community-based corrections, on the other hand, for probation or parole, which is what we do, is $7 a day. Depending on the program, it could be a little more or a little less, but there's a substantial difference when someone is receiving community-based correction services as opposed to a prison bed. Prison beds are extremely expensive. You still might be wondering, what is community-based corrections? Well, we offer a lot of services here in the community. We offer pretrial, which is essentially helping an individual who has not yet had trial. They have not been before a judge to determine guilt or innocence. So a lot of that involves helping ensure that they show up for their court date. We offer pre-sentence investigations, which is quite a lengthy report to the court, which helps the judge determine an appropriate sentence for an individual that has been convicted of a crime. Probation is the bulk of what we do. So an individual that has been convicted of an offense would receive probation services. That means they have a sentence that has been suspended, so they might have a jail or a prison sentence that has been issued to them, but that has been suspended. So they are not required to serve that yet, but they come to us for services. And so we help them get the help they need here in the community to avoid whatever that sentence is, be it prison or jail, and hopefully get things back on track so they can avoid that sentence, whatever it is. We offer residential, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and also parole. So that is for individuals who have served a sentence in prison and been released. Probation and parole are very similar. You will hear me talk about them somewhat interchangeably because the rules of those programs are the same. The individuals, however, serving those sentences are quite different, and we will talk about that. These are the residential facilities that we have here in the 2nd District. As I mentioned, there are 20 of these in the state of Iowa. These are the 3 that we have here. There's one in one in Mason City. The name of that is B.G. Clark. There are 39 men and 16 women that we're able to serve up in Mason City. In Fort Dodge, we have a 66-bed male facility, and in Marshalltown, we have a 60-bed male facility. So our residential facilities are for both pre-institutional and post-institutional individuals. They are available for individuals to live there and have quite a high degree of supervision. However, people can sign out. They're able to go to work and spend time with their families and pay taxes in the community. They're able to really do all their activities of daily living, but have that level of accountability and access to treatment while they're residing at our residential facilities. And they advance through a level system in order to make progress and reintegrate into society in order to be successful. You might be wondering, who are we serving? What are our client demographics? Well, here in the 2nd District, we have quite a mix of age ranges. About 34% of our clients are age 30 and younger. The bulk of our population is 31 to 51, so the middle adulthood. And 14% of our population is over 51, so we have quite a range. As far as race and ethnicity, 80% of our clients are white, 11% are African American, and 6% are Latino. So that's how that is broken down. And finally, when it comes to gender, we serve 22% women and 78% are men. In my title of the presentation, I mentioned crime desistance. You might be wondering, what is that? That's a big word. It's basically the process in which people stop committing crimes over their lifespan. So it is not simply not committing crimes in the moment. It is not the same as the pathway that people started committing crimes. You know, we used to think that crime desistance was just the opposite of whatever led people to start committing crimes in the first place. We've learned a lot about how that is not the case. The process by which people choose a life of not committing crimes is quite different. And so it is really a process that people go through throughout their lifespan. And our job at its core is to help people along that path. And some people desist immediately when they come to us for services. You know, they're done when they're first convicted, and some people it takes quite a bit of time for them to find their path to desistance. And so our job is to figure out who are we working with and what can we do to help them on that path as quickly as possible. And how do we do that? Well, one of the first things that we do is assess risk. And that is one of the most important things that we do, because we do not want to treat all of the people that come to us for services the same. If we do that, we can create harm. And so we need to look at an individual's history. So are they a person that has committed a lot of crimes? They have an extensive criminal history. How old is that person? We know that persons who are younger they tend to be more risky. Have they had prior failures on supervision? Have they been revoked to prison before? Have they had prior violence? All of these things, while there are things that can't change, there are things that will elevate a person's risk for failure on supervision. Think of it like when you go to your doctor. They do risk assessments all the time on us, right? We go to our doctor and they measure our blood pressure. They measure our weight. They measure all sorts of things that, while they're not going to change that in the moment, they tell our doctors how often do they need to see us. So someone who's young and healthy and doesn't have a lot of medications that they take and doesn't have a lot of medical risk factors, they may not even go see their doctor once a year. Maybe they should, but they probably don't. Someone like me who has several of those risk factors, I go more often. And maybe some in this room go more often than that. It all depends on probably factors we can't change, factors in our history. It's not different for our clients on supervision. We as professionals need to assess those factors and then determine how often we need to see people in order for us to be effective. That determines their dosage of supervision and treatment that they need in order for us to be more effective and help them. Another piece of the puzzle that we take into consideration is their needs and their stabilizers and destabilizers. That is a long list, as you can see, and I'm not going to read all those to you, but you can see there are some things on there that are pretty difficult to address. So things like attitudes, impulsivity. Those are things that take a while for us to really work on with a person. We have several group treatment sessions that we might send a person to. We have one-on-one treatment with a therapist that we might send them to. However, if a person has housing instability or doesn't know where their next meal is coming from for their children, or other things in their life that would be what we call destabilizers, we need to address those first. Because I can't really talk to you about your impulsivity if you don't know where your next meal for your children is coming from. So we assess for all of these things, and then our professionals kind of sort through what do I need to help with first so I can get to these things that are what we call criminogenic. They're more impactful on a person's decisions to engage in criminal behavior. But if I don't have stability with this individual I'm working with, I can't get to those other things. So there's really kind of this hierarchy of needs that we work on with individuals in order to help them achieve crime desistance. Mental health and trauma are in the mix as well. Individuals that we work with have a high degree of mental health involvement. There's a high degree of trauma that our individuals have experienced. For example, having been to prison at all can be a traumatic experience for individuals. So these are all things that we assess for and are prepared to work with people on. These are the services that we offer here in the 2nd District. You can see there's quite a variety. On the right-hand side, from where you're sitting, are some of the specialized assessments that we do provide. We assessed for alcohol and drug usage with the MAST and the DAST. The ACEs is a trauma assessment some of you may be familiar with. The static 99R is a sex offender specific assessment, and the modified mini is a mental health screener that we utilize. On the opposite side there are some of the services. We have sex offender treatment program. The Iowa Domestic Abuse Program is a program that we offer. We have drug courts in 2 of our communities currently. We're adding the 3rd after the 1st of the fiscal year. We offer EMDR, which licensed therapists provide treatment for trauma. That's EMDR. So there's quite a bit. We have quite a bit of services that we provide here in the district for our clients. This is our treatment menu. We've worked very hard to expand our menu of services. There was a time where we really only had a couple of things on the menu. We offered sex offender programming and domestic violence programming. And through a lot of work and creativity, we have worked hard to expand that in order to offer a higher degree of services and variety to meet a greater amount of needs for our clients. Active is our domestic violence program. MRT, Moral Recognition Therapy, is our cognitive program that we offer to individuals, and the three under there are MRT based, but there are just different programs that clients can take: breaking the chains of trauma, how to escape your prison, and untangling relationships. Growing Beyond Survival, as it says, is a trauma program. We offer several programs for addictions, and the opposite side there are the programs offered through our sex offender program. So on a bigger picture scale, our work is to help clients by matching the right dosage of treatment to address their needs and help them stabilize in the community. And ultimately, we want to build their strengths. That is what we have found helps our clients be the most successful, is when we focus on that. So how well does that work, you might be wondering? For probation, it works pretty well. So these are clients, remember, that have not been to prison. They are probationers. We have seen our probation discharges, the success rates there continue to increase. As you might expect, since successful discharges are increasing, the revocations are continuing to decrease. I want to talk just a minute about probation revocations. There's been a lot of national attention on probation revocations. You may have heard a term called technical violations. That's been a term that's been frequently discussed, especially in the national media, a little bit at the state level, but especially nationally. Here in Iowa, we do quite well with probation and parole, technical violations. So what this chart is showing you, when we have a probation revocation, 42% of the time it is because someone has been convicted of a new crime. So there's been an actual new crime that's been committed in the community. 40% of the time there's been a new arrest. 18% of the time it's due to a technical revocation. When that happens, and I've looked at this extensively, on average that person has had 7 violations of the terms of their supervision. And when you dig into those cases, those individuals are typically headed toward a new offense. And they're typically on a path of behavior that's harmful to themselves or someone else. So they're typically cases that lead to domestic violence. So it's typically stalking behaviors or individuals that are so deeply into their addiction that they're harmful to themselves or to someone else. So those are the types of individuals in Iowa who are facing probation revocation in 2021 and 2022. So community-based corrections is really very much committed to reducing the problem of mass incarceration here in the state of Iowa. And overall, our probationers are extremely successful. So an individual, so the opposite of desistance sort of is recidivism. So an individual who's reincarcerated for a new crime. 81% of the time, almost 82, our clients are not returning to prison. So they are successful in the community. That is wonderful news. Our probation programs are working and they're working well. So that's something we can really be proud of in Iowa.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How long your recidivism status? Because you're saying fiscal year 18, so that's people who were discharged in 18 and...
We follow them for 3 years.
So in 3 years, 81% of them did not return to prison after getting off probation.
Correct. 3 years is sort of the standard.
Okay.
It's most common that someone who is going to fail fails right away. So by the time 3 years has passed, their chances of staying out and staying successful are quite good. Now, could someone still have a problem after that? Absolutely, they could. But 3 years is sort of the standard. So that's why you see 16, 17, and 18. We'll look at 19 next year and add that data. But 3 years is basically the industry standard.
That is really good.
Mm-hmm. Probation is a very good program here in Iowa. It is. Yes, ma'am.
I find what you're saying very, very, very interesting. Do you have a business card? Are you a lawyer?
No, I'm the director of the Community-Based Corrections Agency here in the 2nd District, which is covered by Ames.
Okay. Are there numbers of probation success by race? And what's the discussion, whenever I'm with a group, not all the time, but what's the discussion on, they always say that Iowa has the highest rate of incarceration for blacks. I don't know about Latinos. Is there any kind of discussion about why that is, or if that is, or?
I have that later, but we can talk about it now if you'd like to.
Oh,
So Iowa does have a
you can.
You want to wait? Oh, that's okay. We can wait. I do not have this broken down by race. So just to be honest with you, I do not have our probation success by race.
Okay.
So I do not have that for you tonight. But I do have the stats on incarceration by race later. So
My hearing is off, and so I'm really kind of
it's okay. That's okay. So I do not have probation success by race, but I do have incarceration rates by race later on in the presentation. So we could talk about that a little bit later if you'd like to. And then I could circle back with you and try to get you information on probation success by race after tonight if you would like to.
You speak to groups for free, don't you?
I'm not being paid, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, by my agency, but.
You did have early on when you were just giving the demographics of your population.
We do. I can back up.
And that was a disproportionate.
It
number
absolutely
of
is.
African Americans.
Because,
It was what, 5% or something?
well, it's 11%, and
11%.
in our district, we probably have 4%
Yeah.
in our general population.
3 to 4.
Correct, yes.
And these numbers are just our district.
This is just our district, yes, yes. It's not different statewide. There is a disproportionate representation of African Americans in community-based corrections statewide. So we're not unique. This is a problem statewide as well.
Is it going in our district?
No. No, but I think their numbers would be also disproportionate.
But again, within the prison, it's much worse than what this is. It's about 800% of what it ought to be in the prison system.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Skip ahead. This is a great discussion. Parole is a less rosy story. I'm not going to sugarcoat that for you. Parole is when someone has been to prison. So this parole is someone has been to prison, incarcerated for a period of time, and then comes back to the community. It is easier for a person to go back to prison once they've gone. There's a lot of reasons for that. One is they've lost ties with everything that kept them in the community in the first place. So it's easier to go back. Two, it's not scary anymore. They've been to prison once. It's not scary to go back. They have the stigma of having been to prison. So there's just a lot of reasons why, once you've been to prison, it is not as difficult to go back. We have seen our parole revocations decrease, so that is a good thing. And when we do have a parole revocation, it is due to a new conviction versus a technical violation. And when a person has a technical violation, so 6% of the time we are sending parolees back to prison on a technical violation versus a new conviction. However, that individual has had 12 failures on supervision. And the failures are due to impending criminal behavior, or impending harm in the community. And so those, I review a lot of cases with parole officers, and I can tell you when we recommend a parolee for a return to prison, it is with good cause. It is because they are going to hurt themselves or someone else. We are not sending people to prison for 1 or 2 missed appointments. It is because they are a danger to themselves or the community.
What's the difference between a new conviction and a new arrest?
A new conviction means they've been in front of a judge, and either a jury or a judge has convicted them for that crime. A new arrest means they've been arrested, have not yet been through the court process, but the way the rules of parole work, there's a different standard of evidence, so they have been revoked prior to having that.
Well,
It's complicated. The parole revocation has occurred based on the circumstances of the arrest and the evidence that is available to us as a result of the arrest, and the preponderance of, so the standard for parole is preponderance of evidence. The standard in a criminal court is beyond a shadow of a doubt, right?
Sounds to me like if someone hasn't been in prison and they come out and they get arrested for a crime, maybe not the same crime, but maybe the same crime as they were in prison for, you conclude on the basis of that arrest that he probably did commit that crime, a high probability, and on that high probability assessment, you send him back, you revoke the parole.
The administrative law parole judge determines that there's enough evidence to revoke the parole. Yes.
Yeah, they're not determining guilt or innocence. They're making a different decision.
Yes.
They're saying this person, we have not established beyond a reasonable doubt that this person committed this second crime, but we are pretty sure he probably did because he's been arrested for something not unlike what he did before, and so we're sending him back.
Right. You'll notice it doesn't happen very often because it still involves witnesses and testimony, and there is a standard of evidence that is required. It's just a different standard than in criminal court.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Thank you for asking for clarification. It is complicated.
Is there an appeal process to that so they can ask
There
for
is.
a new trial?
There is an appeal process. It's not quite a trial, but there is an appeal process.
Just to be clear, the decision to revoke parole is not made by second judicial, it's
No.
made by a judge.
It is made by an administrative law judge that works for the Board of Parole. Yes. Yes, we do not make decisions to revoke anyone's supervision. We make recommendations to either a judge or an administrative law judge. Yes. Thank you for clarifying. It gets a little technical. I appreciate you asking. So parole, we have more work to do. We know we have more work to do. We're committed to doing that work. We want our parolees to be successful. They have a steep hill to climb when they come out of prison. Prison reentry is not easy. It is not easy for anyone who has been to prison, and we recognize that. And as you can see, they have had declining success rates. But I would like to tell you about a new program that we're working on that I'm extremely proud of, that I hope will be able to turn this trend around. And that is our Tech to Connect Reentry program. Our vision with this program is to help incarcerated individuals remain more connected with their community than the prison. And we're doing that through use of technology. We've had this program running since last July, so it's brand new. I don't have really neat outcomes or graphs to show you, but I can tell you it's a program we're really proud of. We're the only agency, well, us and the 7th district, which is Davenport, we're the only place in the country doing this. And so we're extremely proud of it. It's brand new, it's very innovative, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. This is the visual framework for our program. What we do is we identify 2nd district clients who have gone to prison early in their either revocation or in their original sentencing. And then we reach in and we do an assessment with them. We contact their correctional counselor, who they are working with, and we sit down and talk with the counselor and the individual over Zoom, and we talk with them about what their needs are, both their reentry needs and their treatment needs. And we come up with a plan for how we can help them meet those needs while they're incarcerated. Our prisons work very hard to meet the needs of individuals, but they cannot do everything. They have significant security issues that they're working on meeting. They have some treatment needs that they're able to meet, but they simply cannot do it all. We have treatment programs that are already running in the community, so we've been inviting our individuals who are incarcerated to come into our treatment programs and meeting with our treatment staff from the prison and connecting with them while they're incarcerated. Wraparound reentry involves finding out what they need when they come back to us and connecting with those services while they're incarcerated. So do they need a mental health appointment? Let's get that scheduled before they come out. Do they need substance abuse treatment? Let's find out where we can connect them with an appointment. Let's find out, how much is the evaluation? Can we get their funding started quickly? Do they need identification? Do they need a driver's license or social security number? We just get all those needs identified and met right away. That way they come out knowing what their needs are. We can get the paperwork started for most of that before they ever leave, so they come out knowing what their plan is. We can offer increased interventions. So we are able to offer access to all of our treatment menu from the prison. We're able to offer, our entire menu. We're also able to offer mentoring. So we have contracted with the local agency who can also reach in with community mentors, individuals with lived experience who've been successful, who've been incarcerated or had some type of criminal justice involvement themselves, who can walk with that individual and talk about their path to success and how they were able to achieve crime desistance themselves, and just help give them hope that change is possible and talk with them about their struggles. Sometimes they don't want to hear from us as professionals. They need to hear from someone who's walked in their shoes. And so that's part of our mentoring program. Yes?
Do you have businesses that work with you with potential as an employee workforce type situation?
When they get released, we do. When they're incarcerated, that's a bit more limited. However, that is a piece that we're working on building for the future. Yes. Yes.
So if you have prisoners who return and need employment, so where do you find that in the community where they want to live, or is it just in these communities, or how does that work?
So right now we're intentionally targeting individuals who are returning to the communities where the program is.
Okay.
We're purposefully choosing individuals to participate where we offer these services. We would love it to grow, but that's where we're at right now.
So when prisoners are released, how many of them, do you know how many go through like the release in Newton, release center in Newton, or how many get just released from wherever they are, like Ames or wherever they're in prison? Do you have any idea how that works? Or do they go from Ames to Newton and then be released, or how does that work?
It all depends on their custody level. So ideally, an individual, so custody is sort of like risk. So custody means how risky is a person while they're incarcerated to create harm, basically. So if a person is really risky, they'll go to Anamosa or Fort Madison. And if a person is less risky, then they'll go to like the Correctional Release Center. So
they don't necessarily go like to Anamosa and then to Newton and then...
No,
okay.
no.
Okay.
It is all based on the circumstances of their crime,
Okay.
how much time they have to serve, that kind of thing. Ideally, they would release from the Correctional Release Center, Mount Pleasant, or Rockwell City, who are the 3 minimums.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
This is back when, is there a city called BEJE? What is it? What was it?
That is our Mason City facility.
Oh, okay.
She was a legislator, and so the facility is named after her. But it's in Mason City. Yeah. Thank you for asking. I should have put that on the slide. That was my fault. And I think the coolest part of this program are the tablets that we use. And so we have purchased tablets for the institutions to give to the incarcerated individuals at no cost to them. So these are not things that cost them any money at all. We are paying for them. And so that they're able to hand the person the tablets. They can do treatment on the tablets. There are really good programs on these tablets. Substance abuse programming, money essentials programming, so they can learn how to manage money. Work essentials programming. And there is a really neat program on there where they can search for and apply for jobs that are available in their communities. So really, really good stuff. Reentry programming is on there. Writing your own plan for reentry once you get out. And then our staff help them with all of those. So this is a great program. We're very, very proud of it. I would like to see it grow, and I think it will really help a lot of people once we can help it grow.
Do you see any abuse with it?
Not yet, knock on. I mean, there's going to be some of that. We know there will.
Well, yeah, I just wonder how much.
Do you mean as far as the technology and
No.
like physical damage?
Yeah. Or, just what's accessible to everybody.
Oh, so we on purpose contracted with a company that this is 100% their business that they do. So they design tablets to be used in prisons.
Okay.
So they have that all locked down. So we're pretty confident in the security side of it. Will the tablets be broken, lost, damaged? Probably.
Used for, I'm thinking pornography. And
That is not accessible. They can't.
Okay.
Yeah, that is all locked down. The tablets can only access certain sites that are approved through this company. They have no access to the free open internet. They only go to the approved programs. It's all protected through firewalls and a lot of security. In fact, we asked them to put our own website on there, and they said, I'm sorry, that's not secure enough. So they have a very high bar. Yeah.
Is it available in any language other than English?
Spanish. So far, just Spanish, yes. Not yet, but they're always adding.
Are there opportunities for education? Like, I imagine a significant portion of people that end up in prison are dropouts, high school dropouts. Are there opportunities to get a GED or anything like that?
There are. We didn't purchase those programs. We had a budget, and we felt like that was beyond our scope for this. It was a one-year program that we had a very short time clock to get up and running and installed and moving. And I didn't have any educators to get that piece going, but there's absolutely that potential. There is OSHA training, there is GED and college course potential. So all that could be added later. It just wasn't part of the initial pilot.
How about Mitchellville? Do you get?
They do have some tablets, yes. Yes.
So the women are part of it.
They are part of it.
Okay.
One of the most damaging things, I think, that I see in prison is the harm that it does to families and children.
Yes.
Is there any place in this reentry program that works on strengthening families and children?
That's a great question. So there are parenting components that exist on the tablets that we can offer. There are parenting programs that we can offer. We haven't built, what you're talking about, I'm guessing, is some kind of connection with families.
Even like giving free phone calls home to talk to the children.
Or to see the children on
Yeah,
the tablet?
I love that idea. We just haven't built that yet, but I really love that idea.
Video on
Yeah.
the-
Yeah.
on the tablet, yeah.
The potential exists for that to happen. It's just not a part of this initial, but I love that idea. Yeah. I think connection with family is everything. Yeah. Did you have a question? Oh,
Carry on.
okay. Thank you. We're really proud of this program, and it has so much potential. This was the original vision, is we just imagined a world where technology could connect us and keep our clients connected to us and connected to their communities, even when they're incarcerated. We want that connection. We think that's what helps prevent some of the trauma of incarceration. We think that's what helps prevent some of the ease of return, is if we just can help keep that connection, remind them what they're working for, remind them why it's important that they make positive changes and come back. So that is the whole point of this program, and it's something we believe strongly in.
Are we working with technology because you can cover more people? Because if you're an older, I always think about me, if you're an older criminal,
No, you're absolutely right. We're working with technology because it helps us overcome a lot of the reentry barriers that have just plagued our system for years. The communication barriers, just the distance. Some of our prisons are a long way away from the communities. And so that's why technology just provided us a lot of answers. However, you're right. There are some of our clients, and it's not only age. Sometimes individuals with disability really struggle as well with tablets. So you're right. They're not for everybody. This is not a one-size-fits-all magic bullet. This solves all of our problems. You're 100% right. This gets us, but it's not the whole answer. I wish it was, but my hope is if we can solve this for some, then let's keep working. Let's keep working to find answers and help our individuals who struggle with tablets. Well, then let's spend more time, on individuals who are. Then let's get the rest, because I think you're right though. They're not. Yeah.
This is really interesting.
Oh, well, thank you. But you're also correct. This is what the tablets look like. So you can see they're not fancy. They're not probably something you'd want to take to Starbucks and play with. They've got a really thick case on it. They're meant to be really durable in case something happens to them. Drops happen. I drop my phone all the time. It happens. So they're really durable. They're meant to be, so if this happens, if they're used, intended as a weapon, they just kind of fall apart. So they're not going to hurt anybody. And they are very secure on the technology side of things. They cannot get access to anything. So there's no searching the internet. There's no pornography. They only go to the sites that are approved by the company, and the company 100% monitors the security side of things. If we need to shut them all down, we can within minutes. So that piece is very good for an institution.
I have a person watching from home that says they need the tablets for people before they go to prison.
We have that.
I'm just saying all children or
Oh.
all the human race.
Yeah.
This is how we prevent crime.
And we do use that. I didn't highlight that tonight because I was worried about running out of time, but we do have this for our probationers as well, because in our district, we struggle with, I mentioned the great distance in our district. And so originally, we only had programming in our 4 main communities, Ames, Marshalltown, Mason City, and Fort Dodge. And so when people lived in our rural areas, they were driving great distances to go to their treatment groups or to meet with their probation officer or to meet with their therapist. And so this actually was born from that community program where we provided tablets that were cellular based that people could take to their homes to then zoom in to their treatment groups or Zoom with their probation officer. So they did not have to pay for daycare for 3 hours for their child. They could just Zoom, for their half-hour appointment instead of a 3-hour daycare provider plus gas to make that trip, plus maybe they had to pay for a ride. So that actually was born from work with our probationers. Yeah.
So with the pandemic, did that help also? Because then clients could remotely get into the groups rather than having physical in-person groups?
The pandemic gave us a big push. So we actually envisioned all this back in 2018 and applied for a grant. And the tablets arrived the week everything shut down. Isn't that weird? So we looked like geniuses. So sometimes things just work out. And yeah, the tablets arrived the week that things shut down, and it took us a minute to get our ducks in a row and get things settled, but then we were ready to go. And we got Zoom going, and we got the tablets up and running, and here we go. Here we are. So it was just weird timing.
What kind of comments do you get from those who are incarcerated who now have been using that for a while?
They are so excited. People not in our district say, where are our tablets? Why is this not for us? When are you bringing in, that I can't answer those questions, but I'm happy to hear that they're excited about it. That was wonderful.
Ames used to have a halfway house. Are there any more halfway houses left?
There are 20 in the state, yes. We had to make the hard decision to close the Ames halfway house when we lost our federal funding. So it was not a state decision, it was a federal decision. And the federal government basically ended contracts with any rural or small use halfway houses, and we were our district had only small use halfway houses because we're just not a large urban area. And so actually they still contract with other large areas in the state, they just didn't contract with us. And so we did everything we could to try to keep that funding, and it just was unsuccessful. And so we then didn't have the money to keep all 4 of our facilities running, and we had to make the hard decision of which one to close. And unfortunately, it was Ames that closed. So.
Could you circle back to pretrial just for a minute, because I don't think I'm getting enough information on whether we have a lot of people in jail because they can't make bail and they're having to pay the room and board for the time they spend in jail waiting for their trial. So even if they get acquitted, they still have a court debt, you know, or maybe. So what do you do to get people, do you provide some help to get pretrial release?
Our pretrial services are a little different in this district. So we supervise people once the court has ordered them to pretrial supervision. So bail is something different, and what you describe is an issue. And I see what you're describing, where individuals are in jail because they cannot pay. And so that is...
They're in jail because they're poor.
They're in jail because they're poor, and it has nothing to do with risk. So that is a real challenge that the criminal justice system faces that our agency does not have an answer for.
Good. Not good, but I wanted to know that you know that there's a problem.
I do.
Yeah.
I would like to leave you with just some corrections facts to ponder. I do not have an answer for these either, so I'm just going to throw that out there. But some facts that I think as a society we need to wrestle with and just be aware of. So the United States, I'm going to start nationally, and then, well, internationally actually, and then we can kind of go from there. The United States incarcerates over 2 million people. China's a distant second. When you look at that per capita, China drops completely off the list. United States remains number 1. So we incarcerate a lot of people in this country. As of March 14th, Iowa had a prison population over 8,200, which is 17% over the design capacity of our correctional institutions or prisons. So our prisons are full. If Iowa does not intend to build more prisons, incarceration is really not a great solution for our state. Over 40% of individuals in Iowa have a mental illness, diagnosed serious mental illness. 25% of individuals incarcerated are persons of color, despite only 3 to 4% being persons of color in our population.
That's a crime. It is.
It is. It is. And 90% of incarcerated individuals will be released back into the community. Only 10% of our current population have a life sentence. So individuals incarcerated will be coming back to us, and they will be in our communities. So these are our future neighbors. We need to remember that when we're considering their future. Now, here's some good news. Iowa ranks 35th in the nation. We're in the bottom third for incarceration. So all is not lost. In Iowa, we are not at the top of the list for mass incarceration. So we can remember that. So here in Iowa, your community-based corrections employees are working hard to achieve crime desistance. It is what we do, it is what we are trained for, and we're extremely proud of it. We work very hard to help our clients achieve that. We believe in reserving prison beds for those who are most at risk to harm our communities. We think that is who prison beds are for. Are there people who need to be in prison? Absolutely. There are some people for whom incapacitation or being removed from the population is best. They are not safe to be in our communities. Being out of the population for a period of time is important for all of us. But we think those are best for people who are imminent risk for harm. It shouldn't be for people who are mad at. It should be for people who we're afraid of. And probation is our best prison diversion program in the state. You saw the numbers. 80% of people who are on probation and complete successfully don't come back. So probation is not a slap on the wrist. It is not someone gaming the system or getting off lightly. It is a good program that we can be really proud of in the state of Iowa. That's all I had. I really appreciate your time and interest and great questions. Thank you for having me.
Follow up, put it in context. Nationally, if we want to bring our incarceration rate down to the average of the developed world, we'd have to let 80% of our incarcerated people go free. That's how bad, how over-incarcerated we are.
We have a lot of work to do.
So, I have a question here from our Facebook. Is there anything specific that we as the community can do to reduce recidivism or better support reentry as part of corrections, or any volunteer organizations you are aware of?
Well, there's the League of Women Voters.
We don't need to work directly with paroles, but
No, I'm
I
saying
think
we
this
have
is
a good
education.
consensus
Right.
report on what we support.
Right.
And for example, last year we worked pretty hard on the felon voting rights issue.
right.
And it was our number one issue last year for that sentencing we're going through. We have a lot of positions there. One I was thinking of sharing with you, and that is that we have a strong position in support of community-based corrections. Linda was on that committee for a long time. But I recently read a book that's called Punishment Without Crime. Are you familiar with that?
That one I haven't read, no.
I can give you the author later if you're interested, but she has the premise that misdemeanors are the reason for everything happening bad. It starts with a misdemeanor, and then you get a criminal record, and next thing you know, you're in the felonies. But it starts with maybe a simple, not very worrisome misdemeanor. And she says with that expansion of misdemeanors, the whole criminal system expanded enormously after we got community-based corrections. And I think that may be true. And I don't want to say bad things about community-based corrections because I support them in terms of they're better for families and kids and all of that, but I do think that has enormously expanded the number of individuals who have a criminal record.
I think community-based corrections can be misused. So I think it's really important as a system we be clear about who we're effective with and who we're not. So low-risk individuals have no business being placed on community supervision. So I would agree with that premise.
She uses things like loitering,
Oh, sure.
even public intox, things that people do that are a public nuisance but shouldn't result in a criminal charge.
I
And
don't think there's many people who get on probation for loitering.
No.
that's in communities that have a high black population.
Okay.
It's black boys apparently that loiter.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
I mean, this is her data.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
You get 3 or 4 African-American men hanging out on the street corner. They're loitering, send them off to jail.
You know, there's also the issue of, simple possession of marijuana and how that gets people into the system, and what are we doing with all the drug laws? And that,
Not that it's up for discussion, but, nationally, they've put on the news where black men were at Starbucks and hotels and stuff. I mean, it wasn't like they were on a street corner.
Loitering, you mean?
just being.
I am thinking, when the Iowa legislature has proposed legislation that, say, felonies or crimes that might result in a high this law would affect the amount of people who are charged?
We do. We provide data all the time. Yes. It's typically through the Department of Corrections, since that affects their prisons. I should have explained. So the Department of Corrections is a state agency, a state executive agency. We are a local government entity that's run actually by a local board. So there's a little bit of division of services there, but our Department of Corrections counterparts typically would handle any data requests by the Legislative Services Agency, but we also talk to our local legislators as well. So there's...
I think that they always expect to have the financial implications of a proposed law, but how it affects the rate of incarceration.
There's that piece, and there's also in every piece of legislation a statement about how it would impact persons of color. So they also would look at that as well. Yes. Yes.
About 45 years ago or so, I was living in the Chicago area, and I was working with community colleges. And there was a program where it was mostly young men who were on probation, were sent to my class to earn a 2-year degree, and I had to sign papers for the court saying whether they were there or not.
Okay.
You know, attendance. Does that kind of thing still, does that go on here in Iowa?
We don't do as much having them sign papers for the court, but we encourage all of our clients to get an education.
It was go to college or go to prison, I guess.
Oh. We don't have anything like that, not quite, but the colleges are in all of the institutions. So there are educational programs directly in college, and actually the law just changed. I need to find out more about this, but the exclusion of incarcerated individuals for accessing Pell Grants, that has recently changed. So it did. Yes, and so I'm working with our local community colleges to sort through that and find out how we can partner with community colleges and our local, so if they start a college degree in prison, how can they finish it when they get out in the community and they're residing in our residential facilities?
There's also some very good programs in Tennessee with the technical colleges of applied technology. With things like welding and plumbing and those types of trades.
Yes.
Where those kinds of colleges go in and work with
the Department of Corrections
about to be paroled.
Has an extensive apprenticeship program, and they also have trades programs in their institutions. If you are interested, you might want to request a speaker from the Department of Corrections. They're much more versed in specifically which programs they have and where they have those. I would probably not be as effective a speaker on the details of that as someone who's actually employed by the Department of Corrections.
And right now with the online instruction, the way it is, certainly that maybe those those tablets could also include online degrees and things like that.
We think so too. Yeah, that's something that we're talking about with some of our local community colleges to see if that's an area that those could grow. Oh, well, good. Okay, thank you for that.
I'm concerned with the amount of mental health effect on the whole prison system.
Yes.
But I think you have a certain amount of people there that are mental health patients rather than really people who convicted a crime because of the crime. It was probably a mental health condition that sent him to that crime. Mm-hmm. So how do you really deal with the mental health? Should they be there with the other prisoners?
I wish that you had a mental health in prisons expert standing before you. Unfortunately, you invited me. So the prisons do hire and have extensive mental health services in prison. I know the Iowa Medical and Classification Center is one of the top mental health providers in the state, unfortunately, which I'm not sure that's a good thing for the state of Iowa, but it's a fact. So they are very much trying to work on mental health issues in prison. They're very sensitive to person's mental health in prison, but at the end of the day, they are still a prison. So I think embedded in your question is, should mentally ill people be in prison? If you want my opinion, no, but was that not your question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was probably the answer I was looking for.
Okay, no. Unfortunately,
Because I can't see how they can really, in those circumstances, come out better.
during the pandemic, we have formed some fantastic relationships with our local community mental health providers that, again, weird things happen in a pandemic, right? Where you're forced to get really creative, you're forced to rethink things and do new things that you didn't even know were there before, and so some really good things have happened where we have relationships and opportunities that weren't there before. So, but at the end of the day, we still need other avenues to serve our mentally ill individuals. And there are times, remember I said we have to incarcerate people when they're a risk to themselves or someone else. There are times when it's 20 below outside and a person has nowhere to go and they're hearing voices and it's sleeping on a bench or hurt someone or themselves or jail. We've had to make those calls. So I don't like that. I wish it was a different world that we lived in, but that's sometimes the choices we have to make. I wish it was different. I wish we had other options.
One last question.
Yeah.
How much of your staff time is devoted to what I would call helping ordinary people navigate an extraordinarily complicated world? It's complicated. It's complicated finding out how to do things, what your benefits are, what you're entitled to, where you might get some help. Do you spend time on that sort of thing, helping people figure things out?
We do, yes. I don't know that I can give you an exact percentage because it
Right.
depends on the individual.
Right.
And sometimes they have other providers in their life that can do that. So if they're already connected with individuals that can do that, we don't spend a great deal of time on that. But if we're their only person in their life that can help them navigate some of those complicated systems, then we do that. That comes down to the stabilizers and destabilizers. We will help them with whatever is their most pressing need. And so we do that a lot. We help people access Medicaid if they need it. We help people access how do you make a mental health appointment. We help people access how do you sign up for food stamps. These are the things that our professionals do spend time on.
Maybe I have one more question.
Okay.
Could you do more with more? If you had more staff,
Absolutely.
would you do more? You could do more.
We could do more.
At a fraction of the cost of incarceration, John.
Yeah.
But the
I didn't
time-
even ask her to say that. I appreciate that.
Well, we're not going to hold you here any longer.
Well, I
but
appreciate the invitation.
Thank you very much. Great.